Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Neema Chand and this is my second lecture in the spectroscopic series. Here we learn about the infrared spectroscopy. We will understand how infrared radiations are absorbed and how they provide information about the structure of organic molecules. So let us begin. Now, infrared spectroscopy is the study of interaction of infrared radiation with the molecule. It is basically an absorption spectroscopy and it helps in identifying the functional groups and the types of bonds present in the organic molecule. Now, the common laboratory instrument that helps to carry out this technique is named as the Fourier transform infrared spectrometer. It is this instrument that we use in order to obtain the IR spectra. In order to understand the concept of infrared spectroscopy, first I want you all to have a very clear idea about the physical changes that take place in a molecule when it interacts with the infrared radiation. This is where covalent bonds enter the picture. Now, the infrared region that is used for the analysis of organic molecules is not immediately adjacent to the visible spectrum. Instead, it ranges from 2500 to 16,000 nanometer of wavelength. Now, this region of the infrared spectrum corresponds to the frequency range of 1.9 into 10 to the power 13 Hz to 1.2 into 10 to the power 14 Hz. Now, the photon of energy associated with this range of the infrared radiation is not sufficient to excite the electrons to a higher energy level, but it is just right to induce vibrations in covalently bonded atoms. Now, what are these vibrations that we are talking about? Well, vibrations is a general term that is used to describe a number of movements that take place in covalently bonded atoms. Molecular vibrations are basically of two types. First is stretching and the other one is bending. In order to understand them, imagine my body is the central atom and my hands are the two atoms that it is bound to. Here my arms will become the covalent bonds. So this is stretching. Okay, this movement is called stretching. Stretching is basically contraction and relaxation of covalent bonds, as you can see. So stretching can also be of two types. First can be symmetric stretching, where both the atoms are moving in the same direction. Then there is asymmetric stretching, where both the atoms, as you can see, are moving in opposite direction. I think you will understand it better with this 3D diagram. See, this is stretching, where atoms are moving in the same direction, that is contraction and relaxation is going simultaneously. Then this is asymmetric stretching, where one atom is contracting whereas the other atom is relaxing. These are the two types of movements that come under the category of stretching. Then we have bending vibrations. In bending vibrations, what happens is there is change in the angle between the two bonded atoms. Okay, it leads to a change in the bond angle. Bending vibrations are of four types. First, it's called scissoring. As you can see in the 3D diagram, this movement of atoms is called as scissoring. Then we have rocking, like this. See, both atoms moving in one direction. Then the third type of bending vibration is wagging. It is out of plane bending, where both atoms are moving forward and then back. They are moving out of the plane. They are not symmetric to the plane. Okay, like this. Then we have fourth type of bending vibration, which is called as twisting, like this. See, okay, this is called twisting. So all these movements that take place in covalently bonded atoms comes under the category of vibrations. This is called as the vibrations in a molecule. Now, since the infrared spectroscopy is concerned with the vibrations taking place in a molecule, it is also called as vibrational spectroscopy. That is, the absorption of infrared radiation induces vibrations in a molecule, and it is these vibrations that result in the signal in the IR spectrum. Okay. See, any molecule does not show just one kind of vibration at a time. Instead, there are a number of movements, a number of vibrations that are taking place in a molecule simultaneously. Now, these movements are together called as the vibrational modes, or they are sometimes also referred to as the degree of freedom of the molecule. Now, what is this degree of freedom? When a particle is moving in a three-dimensional space, there are three variables required to describe the movement of that particle. Now, in a three-dimensional space, we all know there are three coordinates that are required to describe the position of a particle. Along the x-axis, we have along the y-axis, and then we have the z-axis coordinate. So, the degree of freedom is actually the number of variables that are used to describe the complete motion of a particle. Now, if a molecule contains n number of atoms, then each atom, since is described using three coordinates, the degree of freedom of the entire molecule will become 3n, because each particle has degree of freedom of 3. So, in linear molecules, the degree of freedom of vibration is given as 3n minus 5, and in non-linear molecules, the degree of freedom of vibrations is given as 3n minus 6. Now, this formula you all need to understand and you all need to remember, because it can be used in direct questions, which we'll take up. Okay, so let's take up a direct question in order to know how to apply this degree of freedom equation. Okay, we'll take the example of water molecule. Now, the question comes that you need to calculate the degree of freedom of vibrations in water molecules. Now, we all know that water molecule is non-linear molecule, and the next step would be to calculate the number of atoms present in the water molecule. Now, we have 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atoms, so it makes it 3 atoms. 3 is the number of atoms present. Now, we'll directly put the value of n in the formula. The number of vibrational modes become 3 into 3 minus 6. Then we have 3. So, what it is experimentally observed that water molecules have 3 degrees of freedom, that is, it shows 3 vibrations. Okay. Here I have given you the value of vibrations that are observed experimentally. You understand? This is just to give you a general idea of how to use this equation and use this formula in order to solve questions. Okay. Let us take another example of benzene molecule. Okay. So the first step is to calculate the number of atoms. Now, benzene has 6 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. So the total number of atoms present in the benzene molecule would be 12. Now, this is the value of n, putting this value in the formula, we have 3 into n minus 6. That makes it 30. So theoretically, there are 30 fundamental bands in the IR spectrum of benzene. Okay. Now you know how to use this formula. It is very simple and it will be asked in just direct questions. I've given you these examples so that you understand how the number of vibrations are related to this formula. Okay, degree of freedom. Okay, let's move on. Now that we have learned about the different types of vibrations taking place in a molecule, we also need to understand one very important concept, that not all vibrations result in IR spectra. This is where we come to the selection rule of infrared spectroscopy. Now, the criteria that governs the absorption of infrared radiation is that there has to be a change in the dipole moment when a molecule vibrates. Putting it in different words, if there is a change in the dipole moment during a vibration, only then that vibration gets recorded in the form of a signal. To understand it better, let me give you an example of a molecule called hydrogen bromide. Now, hydrogen bromide is made up of two atoms, hydrogen and bromine, and we all know that the electronegativities of these two atoms is not the same. Bromine is more electronegative and hydrogen is less. As a result of this, in a covalently bonded atom, the electron density around the bromine atom is more and the electron density around hydrogen atom is less. So this difference in electronegativities, this difference in the electron densities, this difference in the charge between two atoms lead to a dipole moment, and the molecule is called as polar. So hydrogen bromide is polar in nature and it consists of a dipole moment. Now when this molecule vibrates, there is a change in the dipole moment as well, and this molecule results in the absorption of infrared radiation. So the selection rule is basically very simple. Any molecule that is made up of homonuclear atoms, that is, it contains same atoms, is IR inactive. That is, it does not lead to absorption of infrared radiation and there are no signals formed in the IR spectra. As in the molecules that are heteronuclear, that is molecules that are made up of different types of atoms, they are IR active. That is, they lead to the absorption of infrared radiation and as a result of that, they form a peak or a band in the IR spectrum. This is the basic selection rule. Okay, so what is the general idea behind IR spectroscopy? In IR spectroscopic techniques, the sample that needs to be examined is irradiated with the IR radiations and then we record the absorbance of these radiations by the molecule. That is, how much the radiation, at what frequency the radiation is being absorbed, that is recorded in the form of a graph that we call as the infrared spectrum. Now this is how an infrared spectrum looks like. An infrared spectrum consists of the y-axis and the x-axis. The y-axis represents the percentage transmittance, whereas the x-axis represents the wave number. Now the wave number scale is usually falls between 4000 to 400. Okay, so now let us understand how this IR spectra is recorded. How the absorbance of IR radiation by the molecule gets translated in the form of a graph that has transmittance and frequency or wave number in the x-axis. For that, I am taking an example of a molecule named as formaldehyde, and being chemistry students, I assume that you are already familiar with the molecular structure of formaldehyde. But I am showing it in the slide anyway for you to recall quickly that formaldehyde has double bonded oxygen and single bonded two hydrogen atoms. So in order to simplify our study, I will only take into account the carbonyl group that consists of oxygen and carbon. Okay, so we will, in this slide, we will only study the vibrations and the movements taking place in the carbonyl group. Okay, now it is experimentally recorded that carbonyl group shows two types of vibrations. Okay, the first vibration is observed at the double bond. This double bond behaves like a spring and this double bond shows stretching vibrations, okay, like this. It shows stretching vibrations at a frequency range of 4 Hz. The second kind of vibration that is observed in the formaldehyde molecule, specifically in the carbonyl molecule, is the bending vibration of oxygen atom. Bending vibration is actually a wagging sort of a movement that takes place at a frequency range of 2 Hz. So there are two types of vibrations observed, one at 2 Hz, the other would be at 4 Hz. Now it is important to note here that the frequency range required for bending vibrations is always lesser compared to the frequency range required for stretching vibrations. Okay, so more frequency is required for stretching vibrations and less frequency is required for bending vibrations. Okay, now coming to the spectra, as we have already studied that the spectra consists of transmittance represented by the y-axis and the wave number represented by the x-axis. Here, to make you understand, I am taking in the range of frequencies. See, we already know that wave number and frequencies are interrelated. So no matter what value we take, we can always convert it into the other parameter. Okay, here we'll take in frequency. Okay, now initially the spectrometer is set that it gives the minimal frequency range. Here the minimal frequency range being 1 Hz. So the first point lies at 1 Hz. Now when we hit the molecule with 1 frequency IR radiation, we observe no change in the molecule. Why? Because both the vibrations are recorded at higher frequencies compared to just 1 Hz. So the 1 Hz frequency radiation actually gets transmitted through the molecule and in entirety it is recorded by the detector. This entire IR radiation shows 100% transmittance. Now what is 100% transmittance? 100% transmittance is 0% absorption. Okay. Now 100% transmittance obviously is recorded at the top of the y-axis. This is 100% transmittance. So what happens is when the IR frequency of 1 Hz is hitting the molecule, all of it is getting transferred through the molecule and recorded by the detector. So this response is recorded in the form of a straight line over 1 Hz of frequency like this. Okay. Now as the range of frequency is increased to 2 Hz, we know that at 2 Hz frequency has the capacity to induce bending vibrations in the oxygen atom of the carbonyl molecule. So what happens is the IR radiation of 2 Hz frequency gets absorbed by the oxygen molecule in order to show bending vibrations. So the entire IR radiation getting absorbed shows 0% transmittance and the transmittance percentage drops to almost negligible at 2 Hz frequency like this. At 2 Hz there will be a drop in the percentage of transmittance, also representing 100% of absorption of the radiation by the molecule. Okay. Now as we move on to higher frequency range, when the IR radiation of 3 Hz, see this is the 3 Hz. When the IR radiation having 3 Hz frequency is hitting the molecule, since none of the vibrations can be activated by this 3 Hz frequency, all of the radiation again gets transmitted from the molecule and it is recorded in the recorder in the form of 100% transmittance. See, this is again a straight line showing 100% transmittance at 3 Hz of frequency. Got it? Now as we keep on increasing the frequency range, we come to 4 Hz. Now what happens to 4 Hz? We know that the IR radiation having a frequency range of 4 Hz can induce a stretching vibration of the double bonds, as we have already recorded in the experiments. So what happens is this double bond starts to stretch and it starts absorbing all the radiation, and therefore again the percentage transmittance falls to almost negligible like this, showing 100% absorbance. Now here I am referring to 100% adsorbance or 100% transmittance. It is all theoretical, okay? Experimentally, because of certain experimental errors, obviously the transmittance and adsorbance is never 100%. So this is the response of the molecule. This is the absorption of infrared radiation that is recorded in the IR spectra in the form of these dips in the graph. Now these two dips are actually referred to as the IR bands, okay, absorption bands in the IR spectra. And this is what gives us the characteristic functional groups or the types of bonds that are present in a molecule. Understand? Now this is a very simplified version of the infrared spectra which I have taken to make you all understand the basic concept involved. But obviously because of the presence of different functional groups, because of the changes in the type of bonds present, the absorption peaks differ and the position of the absorption bands also differ. Okay, now the frequency of the IR radiation that leads to a vibration in the molecule is called as the resonant frequency. Now what is resonant frequency? Resonant frequency is the frequency of the IR radiation that matches with the frequency of the bond or the group that vibrates. Okay, and this is where the power of IR spectroscopy lies. Resonant frequency is specific for different functional groups, and by recording the resonant frequency, we are able to identify and differentiate between the different functional groups and the different kind of bonds present in an organic molecule. Okay, so that will be all for this lecture. I have tried to include all the important points I could think of on IR spectroscopy. In my next lecture, I will teach you how to interpret an IR spectra. We will take into account more complex molecules and compounds. And for that, you need to understand this lecture and you need to keep revising the important points, okay? So hope you found this lecture entertaining and relevant. Hope to see you soon again. Bye.